While Josh sleeps, Vince Neil recites his love song for flight attendant on Continental Express 1147 to Austin, Texas. I am a system of oppression, and you're a Scorpio, with Austin coasting toward us as the shark, though all we can really see from here is a polar sheet of clouds, the world not round at all like we suspected, nor in possession of the manufactured edge, but flat alone and going on forever. Nothing up here to walk across or screw a headboard to. And I fear we won't be able to maintain this level of honesty with each other. People are listening. Depression is the normal body, just the giant thing strapped to G-forces, so hard to lift one's head. And in the final analysis, I hate a cup of tea. It always tastes like roots to me, and roots are so proud, headed for the hidden sources, like scholarly experts, moving always further away from what they feed. You know, I didn't want, along with the earthward mermaids, to honor my way onto the beach, pectoral fins evolving toward the better flag of hands. Rather than that earth, if we should break into it, I'd like to fall into the sea from here, grow tails with you, return to where fish robs fish and the big snails move ponderously, alone as automobiles and far from grace, as we were told. The word salvation not invented yet, nor the forfeiture of sound. I don't know what I mean. Microbe and harness, the ocean will not invent us. And one, as I have said, honesty is important, yes. Two, in stature, you are a very tiny person. And yet, three, you know how it is with some sharks. Younger in testament, emergent conditions in the water park, but never leave a tooth behind. And so it is that I fantasize that I'm a smaller person on airplanes, though history teaches us that bodily confinements, the tray stand, the void, sometimes lead to thought and vision. Josh will tell you if you ask him, it was William Blake who walked outside one day and saw a tree teeming with angels, and I think Blake may have even thought they were a pretty sight. I wouldn't have been so sure. Hard to tell an angel from a ghost, both of them repositioning chains and high branches, both extremely dedicated to craft, both with the heavenly light streaming out of their mouths, both utterly and horribly dead. In truth, I don't like flying at all, but not for the usual reasons. I think they should make flight a more terrifying experience, the employment of glass-bottom planes or pilots reciting the Lord's Prayer, other bits of inspirational verse, flight attendants who pretend to hear me say, I have a bomb. Come and live with me inside this bomb. But mostly I feel so vulnerable with all these strangers looking at the back of my head. I wish I had eyes back there, but also a living nose and a mouth full of working teeth, though this, of course, makes me wonder how it would feel to kiss two women at once on both sides of my head, with the regular mouth and the backup. You would be such a conduit, the women sending messages to each other through your skull, and since you were the implement, you would never know if they were telling lies about you or just speaking intimately like sisters who dig their tunnels through a hill from both directions, meet in the middle where they hold hands and collect grubs and earthworms in a Holly Hobby lunchbox. But I like it best with a single mouth, when the woman misjudges the spacing a bit, then cracks into your teeth with her teeth like a shark hitting the cage. And this all well before the underpants and the nicotine patches hit the floor. You and your partner, the known center of the name tradition, the body's mystery unanswerable, sweet, sweet lunchbox, yet completely exhaustible, the male still the taller of the species and not a different kind of animal. There's an honesty, at least, in these collisions. Maybe just because you get reminded of your skeleton there, beautiful but hidden, so no one ever gets to see it in the light, at least not during the parley of affectionate conditions, its vision only sanctioned by the body through a windshield and later in the weird flirtation of the trauma ward. When you were just a kid, I rocked Austin on back into Mexico. Afterwards walked the strip without bodyguard, my tongue like a sheet of sandpaper working the roof of my mouth into a vaulted proscenium, the angelic orders inscribed into the fish scale patterns of the hard palate, and I wished to be small enough to stand on the stage of my own tongue, ping a couple of high notes off the new acoustics, as it seemed sometimes, like in the myth about the maiden changed to stone, that my voice would never end. And the man stamping hands outside the club I wound up in, did he not hold my hand a little longer than necessary, then look into my eyes? He smelled like a copy machine, the void rolling off of him, 8 by 11, and in that way, and I mean this as a compliment, you kind of remind me of him. So when you finally take yourself away to the other passengers, I'm going to hit the call button, and you'll come walking back to me down the narrow aisle, and then we'll head off to the bathroom together, leave the occupied sign unlit, so one by one the passengers will have to look upon us unawares, but be forced to hold their disapproval in abeyance, since we will just be standing in there clothed and deciding where we're going to stay on our honeymoon, joking over how we forced an entire wedding party into wearing white. How down the aisle the best man wheeled your ring to you on a tiny cart. Thanks, Tommy. And all the cows sleeping below us in the pastures as we fly over them, they will lay themselves down and finally sleep like normal people, without fear of the rubric of the wolf or the gallows of their own untenable weight. The earth is funny that way, not always the receptacle of monoliths. In the meantime, though, I'll have a couple of aspirin and whatever it was that William Blake was having, and then I'd like to ask the pilot now if I could be returned to this bit of airspace again. This one right here. It's gone now. So sad. It had that anonymous rectangular feeling to it, like a hotel room or the top of a pool table. And just for a couple seconds there, remember? Right before we started dropping through a bank of clouds, topping off Austin like a barrister's wig. We were happy in it.